Welcome, y'all. It is your boy Vandal, and in this series, we're going to talk about how I made my remix for Rachael Bawn's Alive. So the first section I wanted to talk about was actually listening through the track or the stem that I decided to use, and I wanted to listen to the original track and then talk to you about the thought process from going there. So let's open up Safari and we'll go to SoundCloud and we'll go to Rachael Bawn. There she is. If you haven't already, you should go and follow Rachael. She's dope. She's got a lot of great music coming out. She's actually on tour right now, which is really cool. But check this out.
I wanna be someone who cares. Wanna live my life out. Wanna take the dare. Gonna be in the moment and take it slow. Gotta get a little crazy. Learn to let it go. Take a rocket ship to places I've imagined.
All right, so you get the point. So it's like more of like a poppy kind of song, and it's really nice. It's got a really nice like kind of dancehall a little bit feel in it, but it's more live instruments, which is really nice. I initially went for what I usually make, which is like trap and dubstep kind of stuff. So I usually speed up the vocal, and the thought process at first was like, especially when you're working with other people's music and you're asked to do remixes, you want to make sure that you're keeping their vision in your mind, right? So initially I asked Rachael if it was cool if I sped up the vocal, and then I made the version, and then it turned out the vocal was too fast, right? So it wasn't really suiting the track, and she kind of wanted to keep the integrity of her vocal intact. So that song was about I think 98 BPM or something like that. So it's pretty slow, or 88 I think. So in order to make a dancehall version of my remix, I had to scrap my whole idea of the dubstep, melodic dubstep version that I made, and I had to start over with just the vocal and the drum stem, which is what I used in the other track anyway. So the stem that I used was the vocal, and I have if you can look right here, I also have the Alive drum stem that I used in the like chorus drop section. So that's kind of the thought process behind this. Was like, this was so new for me, like I wasn't able to for a little bit I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, but then once I got the groove right and kind of like put the other idea that I had out of my head, I was able to really make a dope version that I was really happy with. So why don't we do this? We'll start with the drums, and we'll go section by section, and then overall we'll talk about the arrangement. Then so this week we'll talk about the drums and the drums and the bass. This week we'll talk about the drums and the bass. So let me go ahead and solo the drums that I have in here. So in order for me to get that groove that I wanted, the dancehall kind of groove, I had to go and find a loop that had the groove in it. It's unless you're a really great drummer, it's kind of tough to get that groove. Or if you're really professor in Logic or Ableton or whatever software you're using, you can easily get those grooves by just extracting them from songs. But for me, I just kind of was a little bit lazy, and I wanted to just get a good loop and put it in there and get the idea going, because I was on a deadline. I had about a week or two to get the song done, so I didn't want to take too long on each part. So I went, and a lot of DJs and producers would tell you sound selection is really important. So I went and I really found a loop that had the right groove, and this was the main loop that started the whole idea that I was able to get the idea going for the dancehall version. So let's peep this. So basically, so that's the version. That's the loop that I based everything off of. I cut all the low end off because I didn't need it in there, and I really shaped the sound as far as how I needed it. And I always use Camel Crusher because I like the tone it gives. It brings everything to the front, especially for drums. It's really great on drums. And then I limited it. More and more lately, I've been just throwing a limiter on there so that it's not. So it doesn't pass 0, so it doesn't clip. So whenever I do mix it, I am turning down a limited signal, but as you can see, I'm not turning the gain up at all. It's really just to stop it from going past 0. So then I added the kick, which is basically doing the same pattern as the loop. Now, as you can see, like if you look at the kick, it's a very short kick. It's one beat long, and it's very short. It's very punchy. I have a Pro Q on here, doing some good EQ. So let's just peep it. Just to kind of keep it in that range that I wanted. That's like knocking, like a nice 100 hertz, like in your chest kind of range. Then I have the OTT at 23%. I decided I wanted to make sure that I didn't really mess with the low end too much, so that there's not that much compression going on the low end, but the mids and the highs, there's good compression going on. And then again, a limiter, and this is not doing much of anything, just kind of keeping it from going too far past 0. So then after that, I really wanted to make sure I had the drums, like the groove, like right. So if you can see right here, everything else, like these two, and then all the pink, that's all drums. So I have a few loops that I used, and this is just the main chorus, like drop section. Everything else in the song is just like less of what's in this section. So I'm just going to go through this section for the drums. So then I have this loop, which is, I believe, a shaker loop, top loop that I use. Yeah. And then I just EQ'd out the bottom end, didn't need it. And then threw a pancake on here, just to get some movement and get it out of the middle so that the main loop could shine through. I really wanted the main loop and the kick to be like mostly in the middle. So I have that going, and then I have the live stem, which is I used mostly as like a hi-hat stem because they have really good like live hi-hats and shakers and tambourines and stuff. So they have, it's like a live kit almost that's really gated. Sounds good. But I didn't want the kick. I didn't think it fit my song, my version, so I wanted to have a more sampled sound. And then the good thing about that live stem was that it actually gave it like a nice live kind of sound with the tambourines that they use or the shakers that they use. And then I have a few snares here. So these snares are, this one is offbeat, I believe. It's really simple, like just kind of like a really transient, really like short percussive kind of thing. Then I have this, which is a clap, which is a Fabian Mazur sample, which is a clap that's nice and stereo. So this is something that I wanted to just keep kind of on the grid and kind of like, you know, if you were clapping along to it, you can easily clap along to it. And then I also have this tom loop, which is more of like, which is doing the same thing as this snare. Just has a little bit of like whip to it, which sounded pretty cool to me. And then I also have a crash cymbal, obviously. You know, and then you gotta have the offbeat hi-hats. I actually ended up using a crash for this. See? And that's being sidechained. And as you can see, like a lot of the sounds on here, they're just EQ'd. There's not real need for anything else. Some of them are bounced like this crash. I bounce them down so I can reverse. And then I have various fills in here that really make the track stand out. That's kind of a big thing. Like I notice in a lot of like younger or newer producers that haven't been producing long, their tracks are lacking transitions and fills. Those are like little elements that are like super important to making your sections kind of like blend into each other and like kind of have like, it makes it better for you to have the fills in there. I'm sorry, let me say that again. It makes your track better when you have fills, because it's easier. It's like it's something new that comes in that is not like repetitive, like the drums that I have in here. Because if I didn't have any of the fills, it wouldn't sound like that interesting. So I have. So you hear the timbales that come in. Like it's just like, you know, just something to drive home that island. Something to drive home that island vibe. You know. And then I also have this cuica drum in here, which is right here. It's a cuica. So this is like a Brazilian instrument. It's actually a drum, which is really cool. I wish I had a real one, but this is like a sample of a cuica, which is great. Such a great sound. And then I have some more claps. And that's basically the drums. The drums aren't like anything too crazy. They're based off of these loops. And I have another snare here. So this is just kind of a more like mid-heavy snare. It's a just I forgot who it was. It's a hip hop producers from a hip hop producers pack, but it's Just Blaze. There you go, Just Blaze. But it's a good loop. You know, like or not loop, good snare. Just a nice mid punchy snare that I really liked, that I needed in the mix. And then here's another fill. Simple, super simple. Nothing too crazy going on in the drum section. So, you know who does a really good job at keeping their tracks really simple is the Chainsmokers. And they usually don't have as many tracks, I don't think. I have about 20 tracks of drums here. 23 tracks of drums. 24, 25, 27, I guess we can say. Counting fills and stuff. Of drums. So, don't really need all that. But for this track, I feel like it definitely helped to have all that. So thanks again for watching. Next week we'll talk about the bass section here that we've got, and we'll also talk about some of the synths. But if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, because we do a ton of tutorial videos like this. I do a ton of tutorial videos like this. I also do some vlog videos. I also do, and I also put up some of my music on here. So just check out the description below. You'll be able to get a link to this song by the time, if it's out already. We're still trying to place it for a premiere, but check the links below. There's also affiliate links down there, so if you buy anything through those links, they will help the channel greatly. And I make a percentage of any of the purchases you make there. So, thanks again, and check you next week. Peace.
VNDL.